Hey everyone, welcome to Caring Together Northumberland, a series of podcasts giving you a chance to listen to what's happening across Northumberland to transform health and care.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the next episode in our Caring Together Northumberland podcast. So I'm joined here today with Alex Hall, who is a social prescriber for Valens Medical Partnership. So welcome, Alex. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Brilliant. So in our last episode, I talked to Dr. Robin Hudson, and we talked about population health management. So we're going to talk today instead about social prescribing. It is another one of those terms that the NHS love. But what does that mean for patients, Alex? What is social prescribing?
Social prescribing it's a new kind of branch of the NHS that's looking at how to manage your health in a more kind of person-centred way. It's giving you the control and independence in how you manage your health, your conditions and your general well-being without kind of being told what to do by your doctor.
So is it more about treating the person, the root cause of a problem? So I know earlier on when we were chatting you mentioned debt and things like that as well. So
I think it is one of the key things. I know a lot of GPs I'm sure will sympathise that they get people coming through their doors who are expressing maybe issues with low-level mental health, maybe kind of low mood, anxiety or stress, but they're also saying that it's due to social issues such as debt, housing problems, social isolation, could be pretty much anything. And the GP will sit there and think, I don't really know what to do with that. I don't have the tools, I don't have the time to kind of tackle that issue, and they'll often kind of either refer on to a counselling service or they'll prescribe medication. But the more you do that, the less you're tackling the actual root problem. You can make the low mood go away, but you can't take away those issues with debt until you actually tackle them.
So say a patient was suffering from low mood, say with debt, how do you approach that? Where do you come into that?
So obviously the GP would refer them to us, we'd sit down with them. The key point of social prescribing is that we give people the time to talk and the time to be heard as well. So the first appointment can be up to an hour, and it's a time for them to sit down and say, right, this is what's going on in my life, this is what's going well, this is what support I've got, however this is what I'm struggling with and this is what I don't really know what to do about. So we listen to that, we'll make a bit of an action plan at the end, we'll say, right, this is what you want, this is where you want to be, this is what you want to change, and then we give them options about that, whether it be setting goals themselves around things they can do, or whether it be involving specialist organisations. I always kind of joke that social prescribers are jack of all trades, master of none. We know lots of different things, lots of different services, but we're not benefits advisors, we're not housing officers, we're not counsellors, but we link people in when needed to the right service, making sure the patient is making an informed decision about where they want to go.
As a social prescriber, then you're kind of the link that GPs are looking for to really give the person the not necessarily medical help they need, but some support to help maybe the mental health or maybe some help in their life that they are struggling with.
Definitely. One of the other job titles for social prescriber is a link worker, and that can have a number of different meanings, whether it be linking the GPs to the voluntary and community sector, as it hasn't really been done before, or whether it be linking patients from where they want to be to where they are now and bridging the gap between that. That's how I see our role. Brilliant.
So an hour is a very long time. That's because I know GP appointments are quite quick, it's sort of 10 minutes ago, so that's really given people the time they need to really talk about their problems without worrying what time is it, if I got enough time to talk about this. So do you feel like people really appreciate that time a bit more?
I think they do. A lot of people, even after the first session, will just kind of thank you just for the time to listen. You might not have set goals, you might not have made an action plan with them, but they're just happy that somebody sat down and listened. They might have started to touch on the issue with the doctor, but then the 10 minutes are up and there's another patients coming in, so they've had to kind of come out the door again. But if they've left that appointment with the GP with a referral to us, then the door is then open for them to really be heard about what's going on and look at those kind of wider issues that are affecting people that doctors will only kind of hear about and not really know what to do with.
So again, it's not necessarily something that's medical that they need help with, but they are reaching out for support. And that's
definitely. I think there's research to indicate that as many as 40% of GP appointments can be taken up with non-medical issues, whether there be social isolation, whether there be financial problems, lifestyle choices, various things like that. And up until this point, the GP hasn't really had many options as to what to do with that, other than to just without sounding patronising, to keep humouring them, as it were, and just kind of let them talk a little bit, but still not give them the proper time. And that's where social prescribers come in to link them in to the right help at the right time, what they need.
And that really supports the GPs as well, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I know, obviously I've been in Valens now for, it's about 18, 19 months, and I've spoken to GPs who said they weren't quite sure about us when we started. They didn't really know, like you said at the start, it's a bit of a buzzword. They didn't really know what it meant, but a lot of GPs are now saying they don't know how they could do their job without us, because they know that there's another option to offer people, rather than just listening really briefly and not knowing what to do about a problem. They can actually open up a whole plethora of opportunities for people who didn't have that before.
So do you work within the practice alongside the GPs and the practice staff?
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. So you've really got that close-knit relationship with the medical staff as well.
It is, definitely. I think half of kind of social prescribing, especially in the early days, is networking. It's about getting your name out there, getting the idea of what you do into people's heads, because like you say, it is that buzzword and people don't really know what it is. So you've sometimes got to keep drilling away and keep having those, as we kind of call them, like water cooler conversations. You run into them in the tea room and you just say, oh, thanks for the referral for Mrs. So-and-so. This is what we've done. This is what we're going to be doing, that kind of thing. And it then reinforces with them, oh, well, hang on, this person could also do with that. Why don't we link them into that? So it's a huge kind of part of the job, is to just keep that dialogue open, to keep those referrals coming in.
It is really looking at what the person needs rather than just their ailments, isn't it? It's, oh, you've got a sore foot. It's not just, it's about the whole person, how are you feeling? Yeah. What else can we help you with? Because I think loneliness is quite a big one, is it? That can actually affect your physical health as well. It can.
It has huge problems with your physical and your mental health. And I think obviously the lockdown has not only kind of highlighted it, but it's exacerbated it as well. It's really shown how much of a problem this can be for people, spending large portions of their time not talking to anybody, not seeing anybody, sitting in the house watching telly for what could be days or even weeks on end during lockdown. So that's where we step in and try and bridge that gap a little bit.
So it must have been difficult then with, social distancing and everyone staying at home. How has that been for you as a social prescriber?
It's been a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, I was only in post at Valens for about 4 or 5 months when the lockdown came in, so I was still getting my feet under the table, still just starting to see people. So obviously we were presented with the huge problem that a lot of the organisations we'd link in with they were maybe online and people didn't have access to that. They just weren't working at all, and some of them unfortunately haven't opened up again since lockdown's ending. But it has created an opportunity for us again to network with, kind of showing GPs what we can do. Many social prescribers, not all of them, but many were given lists of vulnerable people who are shielding, and it was our job to call them, to ask them, right, how are you doing? What support have you got around you? Have you got access to your shopping? Have you got access to your prescriptions? Have you got somebody to talk to? Have you got things to keep you occupied? So we did that for a load of people, and then we went through various lists. We did kind of shielding, we did people with learning disabilities, we did people with mental health conditions, that sort of thing, just making sure that they had the right support at the time. A lot of them did, but even those who already did really appreciated that phone call. And again, it showed the GP staff what we're here to do, and it reinforced that with them, what we can do for people.
Especially with the added pressures of COVID-19.
Definitely.
When they had to really adapt, and there was a lot of pressure there, that they knew you were there to help their patients in a different way than they probably could at the time.
Like I said before, it's rather than the GP sitting there and thinking, I don't know what to do with this. This is clearly a problem. This, let's say, debt is really affecting your mental health. But I'm not a debt advisor. I don't know what to do with that. So rather than just saying, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do, they can now say, well, hang on, let's refer you into our social prescriber, and they'll be able to chat through your options.
So what made you become a social prescriber?
It was a bit of a whim, to be honest. I've got a degree in psychology. I milled around afterwards. I knew I didn't want to go back to that. I didn't really want to do education. I didn't want to continue with that. So I had loads of different jobs, building up life experience. I worked in shops, cafes, factories, started my own shop, started my own business. It didn't work out, but I'm glad I tried it. And then one of my old people I went to uni with, he was leaving a social prescribing job in South Tyneside, and he said, you should go for it, give it a go. And the rest is history, really. Once I got in there, I just loved the whole kind of, it was a mixture of helping people kind of solve their own problems, helping people kind of manage their lives better in a not so much a hand-holding way. It's building that independence with people, and it's building up that resilience as well. As I said, it's not so much a hand-holding role as in we're not going to go and do everything for the patient. It's about, right, what can you do? What can we build up on your strengths? So by the time we pull that support away, they've got the tools and they've got the equipment to manage their lives much more effectively than before.
You're almost social builders then, aren't you?
Yeah,
really?
I would say so, yeah.
So what kind of things do you do? Where can you refer these people to?
Well, I mean, you've got the obvious kind of the big statutory organisations. I work very closely with people like Citizens Advice. I work very closely with Age UK, Alzheimer's Society. But we also keep our ears to the ground as to what's going on a more kind of local level. So where the social groups are going on, where there's kind of smaller organisations who can help people, because you'll often find they'll have shorter waiting lists for help, they'll have more kind of personalised support, more time to help people. So a lot of the job, as well as the networking and the working with patients, is about keeping abreast of what's going on socially, what's going on in, the local church group, what's going on in community centres, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of kind of meetings and talks about what's happening. So we quite often get out and about, out of the practice, just going to somewhere, see what's going on, get a feel of it for ourselves, because there's only so much we can get from kind of an email from a church group about what's going on. We'll have to go and see what it's like so we can effectively send the right people there.
Yeah, and you also know where you're sending them. I think
Exactly.
That's really good that you go out and meet the people.
It is, because I mean, like, so you could look lovely on paper. They could send you pictures, or they could send you an email that looks amazing. You could go there and think, actually, I don't think I've got some certain vulnerable people who I think might not really fit in with this. Or I've been to a few groups where they've been like mental health support groups, and they've been a bit sweary, I might say so. But they're quite. I've got quite a lot of patients who would love that because they're quite kind of salt of the earth people. But I've also got a lot of people who would be really offended at that. They wouldn't like that. So that's the kind of stuff that you don't get from the kind of basic information. You've got to see it for yourself, and that's why we need to keep afloat of that, so we know where we're sending people.
That's like really looking at individuals, isn't it? So if someone wanted to be a social prescriber, how would they go about that?
Well, I know there's a lot of social prescribing jobs within the NHS, so NHS jobs have often got quite a lot of opportunities. I mean, social prescribing has existed before it was part of the NHS. It's always had different names. It's been community, as you said, community building. It's been kind of linking services, that sort of thing. So I would just have a look on various, particularly, like say, NHS jobs. There's a lot of community sectors that are looking for very, very similar roles as well. It's just about keeping an eye on what the job description is, and it's often always there under different names.
So tell me, what kind of skills do you need then to be a social prescriber, would you say?
I think probably the biggest skill is being able to listen to people, and it's not just listening with the intent of telling them something afterwards. It's really understanding how they're feeling, what they're going through, perhaps the background of what they're saying to you as well, because a lot of what can be going on in their life they're not telling you, so it's about thinking about what's behind that as well.
Do you need any particular qualifications? Is it sort of a degree related? Or
At the moment, it's anybody can do it. They are introducing a qualification at the moment, which I'm currently doing myself. I'm about 3 or 4 months into it, which is all about building up those kind of basic skills. I mean, as I said, I've been doing it for about 6 years now, so a lot of it is things I already know, but it's good to cement that knowledge, and it's good to put a qualification behind it as well. But what I often found, particularly in the jobs I've got now and the social prescribing job I had last, is that having a wide team of wide skills is really, really helpful. So when I was working in the West End of Newcastle, we had people who they came from housing backgrounds, some of them came from benefits backgrounds, some of them came from women's support, some of them were social workers. They all add to a really strong team. So you can, if you don't know something off the top of your head, you can go to that person who's a bit of an expert in the field and get that knowledge. So the more of a wide kind of array of skills you have, the better the team is.
So lastly, I just want to ask, how does it feel to be a social prescriber?
It feels really rewarding. It's very stressful at times. Obviously I deal with a lot of complex people, and especially where I work with kind of particularly Ashington and Newbiggin, it's quite a deprived area, so we get a lot of complex referrals coming in, a lot of people in really bad social situations. So a lot of these people, I'll be thinking about them when I'm making tea, when I'm going to bed, that kind of thing. But it's under the knowledge that you are going to help them and you're going to get them the right help, and it's such a good feeling to know that that person is standing on their own 2 feet again thanks to you.
Well, Alex, that's been really insightful, so thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.